all the animals, and he brings every animal, every creature to Adam to name one by one. Billions. Boy, wouldn't that have taken a day or two? Then the Lord said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." Now, why do you think the church leaders rarely, if ever, speak of the first creation story? Well, when you think of the answer in political terms, it's not hard to figure out. For over 90% of human history, men have dominated over women. It would make very little to no sense to suggest that God created us equal at the same time. The second account is much more advantageous to the church patriarchs. Let's move to the flood. In Genesis 6, in the first flood story, there's two stories. God tells Noah to choose every creature in twos. Chapter 6, verse 19. You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them along with you. 2 of every kind of bird, every kind of animal, and every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. There's the signature. It's done. We're finished. The flood story is now well on its way. But then we move way over into chapter 7, and another author seems to have a dispute on how things happen. Now it depends on whether the creatures were clean or unclean. Chapter 7, verse 1, the Lord then said to Noah, "Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with you 7 of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 2 of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate. And also 7 of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth." And Noah did all that the Lord commanded. Either there was 2 flood stories or someone's got it wrong. Now there's other dualistic stories throughout the Old Testament, but I want to turn our attention to some of the laws that have been prescribed throughout the Old Testament. After all, if you're going to justify yourself by the law, you can't just choose the one you like. Well, I don't like those laws, so I will ignore them, but when I want to punish my neighbor or be angry at my neighbor or find guilt, well, I'll use these laws. Now, does anyone here believe that they are without sin? Well, we all know that we sin, but what are you going to do about it? I mean, you've sinned. Well, let me tell you what you're supposed to do about it according to Leviticus chapter 4:22. It talks about leaders, but we're all leaders. When a leader sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the commandments of the Lord, his God, he is guilty. He meaning he, she. When he is made aware of the sin he has committed, he must bring as his offering a male goat without defect, people. Don't just go and buy any goat now. You got to be very careful. He is to lay his hand on the goat's head and slaughter it in the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered before the Lord. It is a sin offering. Yeah, sure, we're all about to start doing this. You may laugh, however, and dismiss this as biblical rhetoric. But if you choose to follow or proclaim that you live according to the gospel, can it be right and pleasing to God to dismiss the laws that you don't agree with anymore and only follow the laws that seem sensible to you? Especially when you want to pronounce judgment on your neighbor. Remember what we just read from Paul. Basically, those who live by the law are going to die by the law. Because he says we all commit sin. There are many other laws in the Old Testament based on superstition and misunderstanding of the human body. I'm just going to bring you two. Leviticus 13. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, verse 1 by the way, when anyone has a swelling or a rash or a bright spot on his skin that may become an infectious skin disease, and he goes in big long length chapter or verse after verse to describe these different kinds of things. The priest is to examine the sore on the skin, and all kinds of explanation on how he's to do that. And when the priest examines him, he shall pronounce him ceremonially unclean. On all kinds of rituals and how you're kicked out of the community, you have to do this, that, and the other thing before let back in. Leviticus 15, when a woman has a regular flow of blood, the impurity of her monthly period will last 7 days, and anyone who touches her will be unclean till evening. Anything she lies on during her period will be unclean, and anything she sits on will be unclean. Whoever touches the bed must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean, and on and on and on it goes. So she's got to leave the community, break the things she's touched, burn the things she's touched, etc. Do we really accept this kind of stuff that the leaders of the Old Testament put forward? We need to understand that the laws were written in an era of fear. Fear of lightning, fear of thunder, fear of nature, fear of lions roaring in the bush. The lawmakers did their best to keep the community safe and holy. But as we can see, most of these laws do not make sense in today's society with a better understanding of nature and the human body. Moreover, because they are inconvenient to us, we no longer choose to follow them. But why is it we still choose to follow others? Other laws that are written and that people want to put forward because they have a hard heart, they're prejudiced. Laws like homosexuality, where they like to quote Leviticus chapter 18, a man should not lie with another man. And they use that law to justify their own hate and arrogance. Finally, we have Paul's comments on homosexuality. And if you're going to accept again Paul's judgments on it, you need to accept all of Paul's information and judgments on it. Listen to what Paul also has to say in Romans 11:5. Women love this. I just can't wait till I read this. And every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head. Well, we got one half. If a woman does not cover her head, she should have her hair cut off. And if it is a disgrace for a woman to have her hair cut off or shaved, she should cover it with her head. Kind of a nice circular argument, isn't it? Can't beat that one. A man, I love this, men pay attention. A man ought not to cover his head, since he is in the image of the glory of God, but the woman is in the glory of men. Man did not come from woman, but a woman from a man. Neither a man created for a woman, but a woman created for a man. Isn't it great how we can use those parts of scriptures that we like and then ignore the other parts, like the first creation story? My friends, Jesus Christ is the only absolute authority on salvation. Nowhere does Christ condemn anyone because of their sexuality. What Christ does say, and we heard it read, do not judge and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, you will not be condemned. This could be said in reverse. Judge and you will be judged. Condemn and you will be condemned. When every psychological institution in Canada, United States, Switzerland, Germany, and every mainline psychological institution says that homosexuality is not abnormal, it's normal, it's not a sin, doesn't it make sense that a society whose hearts are filled with love and compassion needs to reassess what they believed all their life? I know how we come to those beliefs. I grew up Well, I never knew my dad, my stepdad, and I may have shared this with you. He used to like to brag at how he and his friends would go and they'd lure a homosexual out of a bar, take him to the back and beat the crap out of him. So I grew up believing that homosexuals were bad, evil people because it was passed on to me and it get passed on to generation, another generation. But let's not use the Bible to justify our hate, our homophobia, our guilt, our own sickness. It wasn't until I had a friend, and I'd known him for almost a year, a real mentor, a real male mentor, who told me more about women, kindness, love, and hospitality. And I didn't know he was a homosexual until I was out somewhere and somebody told me, and I went from thinking this was the greatest guy I'd ever met to wanting to beat the crap out of him, that I stopped to say, holy macro, Bruce, what's going on here? You need to reassess. Now you're judging this person not because of who he is, but because of some phobia that's been passed on to you. We need to get rid of those phobias. God is a God of overpowering love and grace. The greatest commandments are of fear God. Love God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Let us pray. Dear Lord, help us to learn to reread Scripture, to read it with a pure heart, to hear that however, if we judge one person, if we hate one person, we bring hate into the world. It's only as we learn to overcome our hate, overcome our fears and our prejudice, that we will truly be the peacemakers you call us to be. Amen.